Welcome to this presentation about building a resilient career. Hi, I'm Shauna Crain, and I'm so excited to talk to you today about how you can stand out and even thrive in today's competitive and sometimes adverse working environment and job market. When we talk about career resiliency, there are three pillars I want you to keep in mind: professional, personal, and on the job. To help describe what they mean to you, let's look at each one in the form of a question. The first one is professional resiliency. You can ask yourself, how do I stand out in a competitive job market? Personal resiliency. How well do I bounce back in the face of adversity? And on the job. How do I thrive on the job in times of change and disruption? The goal here is to be able to answer favorably for each of these questions. The reality is, most people can't do that. The good news is that with practice, you can do well in each of these three areas. Let's take a look at these in more depth so you can have a better understanding of the what, why, and how. Professional resilience is about keeping pace or staying ahead of your competition so you can stand out as a job candidate and employee. I can tell you that over my 25 years as a leader of people in a Fortune 500 organization, I found that if you become complacent with your skills, knowledge, technology, relationships, and your experiences, you'll quickly fall behind. I've seen this happen. I've seen people who were at the top of their game just 5 years before fall behind as a valued employee because they didn't update their skills and knowledge. They didn't seek new connections or new opportunities. They expected that what worked well for them in the past would continue to work well for them in the future. What I want to do is give you some tips around where you should focus your energy so that you can keep up with what employers are valuing and looking for in their employees. Sound good? Now, I'm not talking about higher level degrees or impressive certifications, although sometimes they're important. What you want to do is focus on developing key soft skills, growing your natural talents, making connections with people, and engaging in growth experiences. These are areas that will give you an advantage against your peers and help you become a highly sought after job candidate and employee. Let's start with the soft skills. You want to know the top soft skills that employers are looking for and build upon them. These are the skills that are needed in any job, whether you're in accounting, finance, IT, sales, or legal. These are skills that will keep you relevant and valued. To help with this, LinkedIn identified the top 5 skills that employers are looking for in 2020. They are creativity, persuasion, collaboration, adaptability, and emotional intelligence. Based on my experience, I have to agree with these. The reason these skills are at the top of the list is because technology can't solve for them. In other words, even with artificial intelligence and machine learning, there are critical competencies that only humans can provide. Let's take a look at each of these. Number 1 is creativity. Creativity helps identify new, fresh ideas that lead to innovative solutions, problem solving, and improvement opportunities. Of course, employers love this, right? Do you think creativity is something you can develop? Absolutely. In fact, it's been studied by scientists that it's a skill you can develop with the right mindset and practice. What's good to know is that where you're already talented is where you're more apt to improve in this area. The difference between creativity and people is that not everyone has the same creative potential in the same domain. For example, if you're good at math, you're more creative in this area. If you're good at technology, you're more creative in that area. The key is to find where you have a natural propensity to be creative and then focus your energy in that area. Being creative helps both you and your organization stay competitive. Number 2 is persuasion. When you're persuasive, you have the ability to convince someone of something. Why is persuasion so important to your success in business? It helps achieve positive outcomes for you and for your organization. Let's look at some examples. When you're persuasive, you can get customers to buy a product or service, convince vendors to offer better pricing, persuade staff to think differently, and influence an employer to hire you, or maybe even give you a raise. People who are good at persuasion are typically great listeners, have empathy, find common ground, and help solve concerns or issues. These are traits you want to work on to become more persuasive. Number 3 is collaboration. Collaboration is when you leverage different people's skills, perspectives, and experiences to achieve goals or solve problems. Do you ever have an idea that you think is great, and you run it past someone to realize that there was something you didn't think of? Something that maybe enhanced your original idea, or maybe it was thought of already. That's the power of collaboration. This is a competency that most organizations value. In fact, in my previous organization, this was a competency we were rated on at the end of the year. It played a part in our overall performance review. Not only do organizations benefit, but there are benefits to you as well. Let's look at those. You can increase the success and impact of your idea or solution. You'll have a greater chance that your idea or solution will move forward, and you'll develop meaningful connections with people. Number 4 is adaptability. Adaptability is being able to adjust to new or changing conditions. Maybe you love predictability. You can expect what's going to happen, and you like that. I know I do. However, you've probably already figured out that just when you think you know how things are going to go, something happens and puts a wrench in your plan and throws you off your game. Being able to adjust to these circumstances is what employers want from you, and it's what leaders do well. The reality is, you can expect constant change in any business, job, or even career. You could be working on a project that may have a sudden change in strategy. You might be pulled off a project and put on a completely different one. Your organization may be adopting new technology, and now you need to change how you work. You might get a new boss who has completely different expectations. Believe me, it's endless. The more adaptable you are, the more you will be perceived as a leader. And guess what? Happier too. The key is to teach yourself to be more flexible when things go differently from what you expected. Here are a few ways you can start to increase your adaptability factor. First one is to expect unpredictability. 2, keep your mind open. And 3, look at change as an opportunity. These simple mindset tweaks will contribute to you being more adaptable. You'll find that you're more positive. You'll be ready for a plan B and will more easily accept new people. And the last of the top 5 soft skills that employers are looking for is emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is the ability to be aware of your own emotions and those of others, plus how you respond to those emotions with your behaviors. I'm sure you've heard the term cool as a cucumber. People who are referred to this way are regarded very positively. The opposite is to be explosive or dramatic. You don't want anyone to see you sweat. This is such an important trait to have in business. Emotional intelligence is also referred to as EQ. It's different from IQ, which is intellectual intelligence. Most successful leaders have high EQ. They're calm when under pressure, they have empathy for people, they listen, and they make people feel good. Did you know that high EQ is directly correlated to job success? In fact, research from Harvard Business School demonstrated that EQ counts for twice as much as IQ and technical skills in determining who will be successful. In other words, research showed that when predicting who would be successful, emotional intelligence weighed twice as much than someone's intellectual intelligence and hard skills. Interesting, right? And if you're still not convinced, Talent Smart found that people with high EQ make $29,000 more annually than those with low EQ. And a single point increase in your EQ adds $1,300 to your salary. Another interesting statistic is that 75% of employers said they are more likely to promote a worker with high EQ. The good news is that this is a skill you can learn. In fact, there are a number of resources and even self-assessments that you can take to help you here. Okay, so we covered the top 5 skills employers are looking for. Now, you might be asking, how else can I improve my professional resiliency so I can stand out in a competitive job market? Know your strengths and develop them. A strength is something that is innate and natural to you. It's something you're good at and like to do. Your strengths are something that you can apply to any job. Think of it as your superpower. When you use your natural talents, you increase your well-being, your work performance, and happiness. What's not to like, right? Here's something that a lot of people get wrong. Developing a strength is exponentially more powerful than working on a weakness. Further development of something that's already a natural talent of yours will pay more benefits than if you spend the same amount of time on a weakness. When I learned about this, it was a game changer for me. Once I took an assessment and identified my top 5 strengths, I really focused on using them on the job. And guess what? I got promoted to VP 6 months later. So you might be wondering, how do I identify my natural talents? There are a number of self-assessments out there. My favorite is Clifton Strengths. Once you identify them, you should start to build upon them. It will become a differentiator for you in any job. Lastly, to improve your professional resilience, you should take advantage of informal opportunities and growth experiences. This is important whether you're employed or not. You want to get yourself out there to gain as many different experiences as possible. Let's look at a few good examples. You can get involved in your organization's volunteer projects or groups, or join your community's volunteer committee. For example, I'm on my township's recreation committee. And always take advantage of any mentoring programs. Remember the top 5 skills that we just talked about? Focus on taking on tasks that allow you to practice those skills. Also, find opportunities that align with your natural talents or strengths. For the same reason I just mentioned, you want to develop these strengths whenever, wherever possible. The other great benefit is that you'll establish new connections in the process. Connections with people will help you gain different perspectives, find better solutions, and maybe someone you can count on for a reference or even a job opportunity. Okay, so let's go back to center and take a look at personal resilience. Your personal resiliency can be best answered with the question, how well do I bounce back in the face of adversity? From a career perspective, most likely, you'll experience your first real adversity when you start to look for jobs. You'll experience rejection. Having good personal resiliency means you can keep moving forward with positivity and confidence when faced with rejection, failure, change, and challenges. The reality is that in the workplace, you'll experience all kinds of failure and rejection. You could be passed up for promotion, not get the performance rating you wanted, not get the job you posted for. You might not be chosen to work on an exciting project, or you may not perform well when presenting to a group. You might make a mistake. Believe me, these are all common occurrences. You have a choice. You can fold or flourish in these scenarios. You can be down on yourself, give up, be depressed, lose confidence, or you can look at it as a learning opportunity and tweak what you're doing to be more successful next time. Let's look at some ways you can build personal resilience. The first one is to use positive self-talk. Force yourself to say things like, everything will work out. I'm smart, confident, and capable. It's not that bad. I'm doing great. And my favorite, no one is perfect. Number 2, view setbacks as temporary. Put things into perspective. Remind yourself to be patient, and the right outcome will present itself in time. Number 3 is to practice being rejected. I know, it sounds silly, but purposely put yourself in a situation where someone says no to you. Practice saying back, just asking, or sure, no problem. When you get used to being rejected, you become better able to handle it. Number 4 is to have a plan B. Prepare for the worst and think about what your backup plan would be. This way, when things don't go your way, you have another strategy to focus on. And number 5, look at adverse circumstances as a learning opportunity. Any type of adversity presents a learning opportunity. What could you do better next time? What will you do more of or less of? The bottom line is that the more resilient you are in the face of adversity, the more you'll be perceived as a leader, increase your level of career success, and be happier. All right, so let's look at that last pillar of career resiliency, on-the-job resilience. Your on-the-job resilience can be answered with the question, how do I thrive on the job in times of change and disruption? On-the-job resiliency is being able to manage change and disruption at the workplace in a way that's positive and beneficial for you and the organization. I love this quote by a Greek philosopher, Heraclitus. The only constant is change. Just like anything else, your organization and job will be under constant change. Common changes in the workplace are typically in the form of people, process, and technology. It's so important to embrace these changes when they happen. Let's look at some ways you can elevate your on-the-job resiliency. Number 1 is you want to be considered a change champion. In my experience, people who are considered change champions were rewarded. What I mean by that is these people were rated as the high performers, got promoted, and were sought after for the high visibility projects. Those who resisted change were not. A common example that you'll face is brought about by technology changes. Technology changes all the time. In my experience, people who embrace new technology are seen as leaders. Those who don't can actually be penalized for it. There was a time when our organization changed our email platform from IBM Lotus Notes to Microsoft Outlook. Sounds like no big deal, right? But people had been using the old email platform for over 10 years. The new system was a drastic change to the way they worked. There was a learning curve, and it came with bugs and frustrations. Those who saw the positives in it were looked upon more favorably. People who just complained about it were perceived negatively, and it can reflect in your performance review. So then, what does it mean to be a champion of change? Change champions support new people, process, and technology with positivity and leadership. They help guide the change towards success. They avoid dwelling on the negative. How can you start to be a change champion? When a major change is occurring in the workplace, you can ask yourself, how can I help it be successful? How can I get involved to ensure people understand and are on board with the change? And what are the positives that we can focus on because of this? Perhaps you can volunteer to be an ambassador for the change, meaning you can be the person to help answer questions for your functional group, and maybe even help provide some training. Number 2 is have a continuous improvement mindset by asking, how can we do it better? This is a paradigm shift from what we just talked about, because in this case, you're the one initiating the change, not your organization. The fact is that employers value people who can help them reduce cost, increase sales, or elevate customer satisfaction. What you want to do is always look for ways to make improvements that help in these areas. Let me give you a real-life example. In my previous organization, we had an employee who suggested we leverage Alexa technology as a way for clients to ask about their retirement account balance. They were currently getting that information by either logging into the website or calling the 800 number. Alexa is a quicker, more novel way of getting this information. This was implemented and helped to increase sales, reduced calls to the call center, and elevated customer satisfaction. And guess what? The employee who suggested that idea and helped to develop it, he was promoted and received a lot of recognition, both internally and external to the organization. And the third and last suggestion I have for you to improve your on-the-job resiliency is to look at problems as an opportunity. Let me give you an effective way to go about this. Perform a retrospective. A retrospective is a look back at a problem to determine what went wrong, also known as root cause, and how to prevent it from happening in the future, referred to as preventative actions. The preventative actions that you identify are opportunities. In technology, this was a routine practice. For example, let's say you're in IT and a call center application goes down. The techs restart the server to bring it back up, but what caused the failure? And what should we do to prevent it from happening again? A retrospective would be needed to determine that. Retrospectives should also be done at the end of significant projects to discover any learnings around what to do or not to do the next time around. If you can look at a problem with a retrospective mindset, you will identify improvement opportunities that will help you stand out as a valued employee. The bottom line is that if you can improve your professional, personal, and on-the-job resiliency, you'll have a rewarding career, even in times of setback, uncertainty, and a competitive job market. If you want more tips on how to be successful on the job, check out my free resource called 7 Career Climbing Hacks. Do this, not that. Just go to www.corporatecheetah.com and click the red button on the first page. Thank you so much for listening. I'm excited for you to start building your career resiliency and experience accelerated job success.